Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech, live on Twitch. It's been a while. I apologize. I've been pretty busy. Schedule's been kind of out of whack because Nick, sadly, was not able to join us on the last tech podcast, and that resulted in me having to edit the whole thing. So, anyway, schedules got rearranged. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. I think they all went up at the regular time, but we made it work. Thank you for the 100 bits, Chris Norton, already. I haven't even said anything yet. You're donating. But thank you all for tuning in. I was actually excited because this is something I wanted to talk about in a Twitch stream. It pertains to yesterday's video I did on why I don't think that Apple Silicon is going to drastically change gaming on the Mac. Maybe I should have emphasized the drastic a little bit more because it definitely seemed to result in a lot more disagreement and backlash than usual. So I wanted to dive more into it because I didn't feel like it deserved a follow-up YouTube video because it's very easy for this to turn into an appeared to be YouTube drama situation when it really wasn't. It's mainly my fault. It's mainly poor research on my part. Brandon and Mason, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, 4 months, as well as Merzi Motasha, thank you for the Twitch Prime for 5 months. And you love the EV podcast. Good. I'm glad you guys liked it. Archie donating bits. Thank you. And Expos1 donating 200 bits. Thank you. All right. Appreciate all the donations. Essentially what happened, I think the reason people took it the wrong way was because this awesome creator named Max Tech, not too long ago, I think it was barely even a week ago, did a video, much larger channel than mine, that gets way more views than mine. Max Tech did a video on why he thinks Apple is going to be pushing into gaming huge this year. They're going to make this huge, big turnaround, basically, for gaming on the Mac and everything because of the developer videos he's seen from Quadruple UDC. And he essentially broke down that, like, oh, this is going to be awesome because now developers on Windows can optimize things to run for Metal, and Apple's pushing this whole Swift UI type thing. And he did this whole video explaining why, you know, gaming on the Mac and gaming for Apple is all about to change and it's all about to be great. I have never heard of this man in my life. Okay, let me be clear from the beginning. I've never seen a single one of his videos. I've never interacted with him on Twitter. This isn't an intentional boycott. It's just I don't spend that much of my time watching tech videos because I make them all the time. And I talk about tech all the time, whether it's in Discord or whether it's on Twitter, on my own videos, or in podcast form, or in Twitch streams. You guys know how often I talk about tech, so I don't spend much of my time in my personal world watching tech videos. There's only, I think, 2, maybe 3 tech channels that I'll watch anything they upload, and that's about it. So everyone thought this video I made yesterday, which was all about gaming isn't going to change, don't expect anything to change just because Apple's switching to their own in-house processors, and people thought that must be a direct response. This must be a direct correlation. He saw Max Tech and he heavily disagreed. This is Drew's response video. And then immediately people called me an idiot, a moron, because you're not bringing up the points Max brought up in his video. Of course, this video I've never seen by a creator I've never heard of. So I was just like, wait, why is everyone talking about Max Tech all of a sudden? What did I do in this video? I don't even know who this guy is. So, wow, Chris Norton, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Why don't you rotate one day live stream, one day edited video? I could. It's just live streams aren't as important, so if I cut in half the amount of edited videos I do, my income would drastically drop compared to if I just cut out live streaming. Obviously, both is helpful, but for me, at least, with Tailosive, I'm putting edited content first because way more people watch those than the live streams. So whichever people watch the most of, I'm going to prioritize. So that's why tech and EV, those are kind of the priorities, and then everything else is sort of secondary. So if I have the time and I have the ability to, I will do a live stream or an additional vlog. Or, you know, I just finished a vlog. I'll post it after this. But tech and EV, those are what most people watch. That's the majority of my income, so that's why I prioritize them. But so obviously, like I said, Max Tech, all over the comments, all these links telling me, Drew, you got to watch this video, or Drew, you have to delete your video you just uploaded because it fails to bring up what Max Tech brought up. And Max Tech is clearly more well-researched than me. He's definitely more aware of developer video. I don't watch that kind of thing. The only reason I did this Gaming on the Mac Won't Change video is because countless times on Twitter and in live streams, on YouTube, comments, everyone kept saying, oh, Apple's switching to their own custom silicon. So can Macs actually beat gaming PCs now? This is going to make gaming PCs get a run for their money. Gaming PCs are in trouble. Xbox, PlayStation is in trouble because now we're going to be able to play games on our Mac. And I think every time there's some type of huge disagreement or huge backlash with a video, it's because people don't have a firm grasp on what it was targeted at, and they think it's targeted at something else, and because they're imagining something it's targeted at that it's not, they see all these flaws and failures in the concept. I had a very similar experience with the whole Rossman thing. The whole "Are we still talking about Bengate" video was more so in response to Unbox Therapy saying, see, I can bend my iPhone. You know, people bend it with their bare hands, and then later on in a lawsuit they're like, hey, Apple knew this would happen. I was like, that's not the point. But then someone else shows up and thinks I'm denying touch disease. I wasn't trying to fight touch disease. I was just trying to fight the people who were bending it by hand. So that's where the confusion and the misunderstanding comes from. So I watched Max Tech's video, for the record. I watched through it. He brought up some great points. Definitely a bunch of points I would have loved to bring up in my own tech video. But fundamentally, I don't change my opinion. I didn't watch his video and then think, oh, crap, that disregards what I was saying here. It really doesn't, because nowhere in my video did I make the point that, you know, the specific reason developers aren't optimizing their games for Mac is because there's no Metal app on Windows. That wasn't the reason. It was that it's much more complicated to design and update and work on the bug fixes and patches for the Mac user base. And as I said repeatedly in that video, there is not a huge gaming demographic on the Mac platform, and because of that, game devs don't see it worth it as optimizing their hardware. I guess a lot of people exaggerated that viewpoint. Let me refresh the chat. I think it's frozen on my... Yeah, it's loaded. The chat's loading on my phone, but it's not loading on the Mac for some reason. It's on the beta, so let's give it a break. So if you guys were asking things for the past few minutes, I apologize. I'll try to see if I can get the chat back. I don't know what happened to Safari, but it didn't like all the chats coming in at once. So anyway, I'll try to refresh that. I apologize if anybody donated and I wasn't able to read it, because for whatever reason, it decided to freeze up on Safari. These dang dev betas. I should have expected. Don't worry. I've got the chat up on my phone. The last... oh, they're not... There's a pop-up. It says the page is not responding. So the last donation for me was the 1,000 bits from Chris Norton. So if anyone else Twitch primed or donated since then, please let me know. I'm looking at the chat on my phone now. Okay, now it's loading on the Mac. Now it works. Finally. Okay. Back to my point. I don't think the issue with bringing games to the Mac was that the Metal app for developers was not available on Windows. I don't think that was the big holdup. And a lot of people seem to think that that's the big cure. Well, now that Apple's made this Metal for Windows app, that's all going to be fixed, right? Now that everyone can port their games over. I don't think it's that simple. I think that supporting a different platform with different updates and supporting bug fixes and that kind of thing, I don't think that all gets fixed just by Apple making a Metal for Windows app. And what this does allow for, which I think a lot of the confusion stemmed from, was a lot of people saying, no, gaming on the Mac is going to change hugely, because now it's very easy for developers to port their iOS and iPadOS games over to the Mac. In my opinion, that's not really answering or responding to all of the questions and comments I was receiving, because on my end of the spectrum, I was getting a large portion of my fan base, people asking, you know, Macs aren't as good as gaming PCs when it comes to playing AAA game titles, whether it's, you know, your Skyrims or your Counter Strikes or your what is it, Overwatch, all these super popular titles that aren't available on Mac. People are like, so is that going to change now that Apple Silicon is entering the picture? And my point was no. I don't expect that to change. So when I hear all these people saying, but Drew, now we can get iOS games on the Mac, I'm like, that's that's not going to change anything. For one, I don't expect iOS games to be ported over that well to the Mac. I don't really care. It doesn't really make a big difference to me that Apple makes the tools easy. They're presenting the tools for developers to optimize their games to run on the Mac. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, though. Again, the whole point of the video, even without watching Max Tech's video, the whole point of my video was that it's not worth it to the devs. Doesn't matter if Apple pushes the tools forward and says, hey, here, look, here's how you can build your game for the Mac. Most devs are still going to say, okay, that's great, not worth it, because there's not a huge gamer base here. We can't make that much money here. So no, it doesn't really matter how easy it is. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was ever an issue of the ease of porting games. It was just the small user base. And Apple can make it as easy as they want to. I still don't think it's going to change. And also, iOS games are very much built for multi-touch and built to run on a phone, different aspect ratios, different resolutions, different touch controls. There have been countless games I've found on my phone that would not do well on the Mac, even if the developer tools were super simple and it was just a few clicks to make it run on the Mac. It still wouldn't run well. And this comes from experience with whenever I did Apple Arcade, I basically played all those games on my Mac. My iMac Pro with great GPU, with great CPU, and Apple required, okay, this is the key difference here, guys. Apple required all of the game developers that made stuff for Apple Arcade, all of that required them to make the games available on the Mac, right? If it's an arcade game, it has to have Mac support, right? That's Apple literally like ownership of the games. They're in control with the game studios. They're on par with them. They're saying like, hey, these are our games. We need them to run on the iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, and the Mac. Okay, this is our big push towards gaming. Even then, all of the games I played on the Mac were horribly ported. Horribly. Okay? And that's when Apple's in charge. That's when Apple's the one making revenue. I was trying to play Apple Arcade games on the iMac, and it was still saying, press 2 fingers on the display to jump, or it was saying, activate power saver mode, activate low battery mode in the game, and I'm playing on a desktop that doesn't even have a battery. The ports were awful. They did not even take advantage of the 5K display. They were very blurry. The FPS was all over the place. They were not scalable. So I think it's great that Apple is making their own in-house designed CPUs and GPUs for the Mac. But in my opinion, just because Apple is now making the CPUs in the iPhone and the CPUs in the iMac, that doesn't just mean, okay, great, all iOS games can now run on the Mac. The Mac is now a gaming machine. I don't see it that way. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times in the past, so that's fair. But genuinely, I don't think this changes that. I think that there might be a few game devs out there that are like, okay, cool, we can optimize our game for the iPad. Now we're going to bring it to the Mac, and it'll be fine. But, like, what game am I talking about exactly? I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was the Breath of the Wild ripoff, and there was also like a skater Apple Arcade game that I tried on the iMac. It was horrible. There was also Mini Motorways on the Mac, had a bunch of references to touch the display, tap and hold this, even though it wasn't a touchscreen. Oceanhorn, that's what it was. And by the way, the markets for mobile gaming versus desktop gaming, they're so incredibly different. And I'm throwing aside the technical aspect. I'm not talking about they're different to code and engineer from a software standpoint. I'm talking about the markets, the consumer base. The PC gaming world or the console gaming world, they're used to spending $60 on a game or games that have, subscriptions to play on multiplayer, and these really, really high-end titles that you easily spend 20, 30 bucks on, the Steam sales where you can get games for $10 and bundles and that kind of thing, is so different from the mobile gaming sector, because the mobile gaming sector is all about freemium and putting in ads and having more pop-up ads and games that you play in portrait mode, and games that that are specifically designed to use the accelerometer and the gyroscope in your phone and not designed to work with a keyboard and mouse. I've seen so many games that are really fun and easy to play on iOS that are totally different and horribly ported on the Mac. And I don't think that just by presenting more dev tools to be like, hey, just port your game over to the Mac, I don't think that changes the situation. I don't think that the Mac is going to give consoles and gaming PCs a run for their money. I don't think that the Mac's position as a gaming device is going to change, as in it barely does any gaming now, and it's probably barely going to do any gaming 5 years from now. I think that the markets have kind of divided themselves. There was already like a huge number of people in the comment section saying things like, well, they're getting rid of Boot Camp, so that in itself is kind of making it hard for people to play games on the Mac because they can't put Windows on it anymore. And I don't think you're just going to see a big rush of devs to optimize for ARM Macs, because I don't know. I've seen many times in the past Apple present the tools for developers to make their hardware, make their platform a gaming sector, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. RJ Wacker, thank you for the Twitch Prime, says thanks for the content, Drew. Agreed, Mac isn't really set up for gaming. I think it's too late. Like I said in the video, I don't believe that the hardware of the Mac was the issue. It wasn't a matter of you don't have the right graphics card, you don't have the right processor. And also, just because the iPad and the iPhone are huge in the mobile gaming sector does not mean you can easily translate over that market dominance to the PC gaming sector. Because, again, it's a totally different market. You're underestimating the amount of people out there that play iOS games that want to play them on an ARM Mac. There's a lot of iPad games I play that I can envision playing with a keyboard and mouse. My point is, you can do that on the iPad now. So if you already have it on the iPad, why do you need to do it on the Mac as well? Occasional mobile games, but again, that wasn't the question I was getting asked. So could some iOS games come to the Mac from this? Probably. But is that going to change the Mac's position as a gaming machine? No. I think that the people that want to play iOS games already have devices to play those with. And bringing more games over from a phone and a tablet over to a desktop doesn't change much. It's a little handy. It's like this for the sake of continuity. It's almost like as big a change as adding iMessage screen animations to the Mac. It's like, cool, now I can see those animations on my phone, I can see them on the Mac. It's kind of nice for continuity's sake, but that doesn't drastically change the gaming market for it. Nothing should be in portrait mode, videos shouldn't be played in portrait mode, games shouldn't be played in portrait mode, and the fact that there are apps that only function in portrait should be an absolute crime. There's a bunch of games that actually only work in portrait mode, and it's better for them. So there is no hope for gaming on the Mac. I just want to play the iPad games. Isabel on the Mac with a keyboard and mouse. There's hope for that. I just don't think that's going to change much. My point is you can do keyboard and mouse on the iPad now. So if anything, the iPad is better suited for gaming than the Mac is at that point. It's still the mobile gaming sector. It's still the iOS App Store. And it's the iPad has some replicants of the, consoles and PCs, but it's not the same. They're totally different markets. Apple has made it, there's a great example. I was waiting for someone to bring that up. Apple has made it painfully easy over the years, painfully easy, to make an iPhone app and to easily optimize it for the iPad. Yet we still have things like Instagram that don't make iPad apps because they're like, no, it's for the iPhone. And I've seen third-party devs done the same thing despite Apple make it painfully easy to develop games and write games for Apple hardware, and yet people don't do it. If there's any evidence of this, in my opinion, it should be because, Minecraft was brought to the Apple TV. They did it. They released it. That came out. But what happened? They stopped supporting it because no one was using it. There weren't that many people playing Minecraft on the Apple TV, and the work was not from having to port over Minecraft from the Xbox edition to the Apple TV edition. That was not why they canceled it. It wasn't because, oh, we didn't have an app that we could easily port it over with. No, they said maintaining the app for such a small user base was slowing their dev down. So if you can release a game on Apple hardware and it doesn't do well, it's not a matter of being able to port it. It's just that they have to keep updating it. They have to keep optimizing for it. I don't think the trick was that, oh man, we have to keep buying Apple computers to write Metal and optimize for Metal. I don't think that was it. I think that it was a time consumption thing. Paying software engineers and paying employees infinitely more expensive than paying for an Apple computer. So that's where I think the misconception comes from. And again, this is all speculation and prediction on the future of gaming and on the Mac and that kind of thing. Apple has had numerous times where they've partnered with game studios and then it never formulates into anything. They're always just like, yeah, this is a cool demo for a keynote or something like that. But then it never really turns into anything. So I don't think that just because Swift UI is coming to the Mac and you can write games for the iPhone and the Mac just as easily, I don't think that's going to change much. I still think only a handful of game devs are going to optimize for the Mac. It doesn't matter if Apple makes it easy. It's still just, it's a very small user base, so there's very, very little incentive for game devs to do it. I think that's fundamentally the huge flaw it comes back to. If your game uses Vulkan right now, it's basically a one-click port to get it on Mac, and still no one does it. It's never been an ease of porting issue. There you go. My wife is not watching the stream with me, so we're good. Dang it. Let me know if she is, and then I'll call you out again. Will you react on Samsung Impact event? I wasn't really planning on it. The relationship with big AAA companies that Apple has are Sega and Ubisoft. Okay. I haven't seen them port much to the Mac, but I don't think I'm underestimating, to that response earlier, I don't think I'm underestimating the number of people that want to play iPad and iPhone games on the Mac. I really don't. I think that most people who are playing iPhone and iPad games on their iPhone and iPads are going to continue to play them there. And if they got the option to play them on the Mac, they might check it out once or twice, but it wouldn't, I don't think it would change much. Because, again, most of the, well, I mean, it wasn't until iPadOS 14 that they're finally letting you put keyboard and mouse support on the iPad. So pretty much all games for the iOS App Store have, since the App Store's existence, all been designed for touch. So if you suddenly just ported them all over to the Mac, because it's so easy now, I bet it would feel sloppy, it would feel rushed, it wouldn't feel optimized for the hardware it's on. Even if the CPU and GPU are now Apple Silicon, it's still a different aspect ratio, it's a different pixel density, it's a different screen size, it's a different user input. There may be some game devs that optimize, like, oh, okay, iPad has keyboard and mouse now, we should support that. But if there's anything I've seen over the years with App Store and game devs optimizing for hardware, is that they take their precious time. My goodness, they are slow. I think it took like 2 years for Fortnite to support 120 FPS on the iPad. 2 years. Literally. It was like iPad came out in 2018, 120 FPS didn't launch until like 2020. It took a long, long time. Same with like controller support. I was listening to this week's podcast and you talked about putting Big Sur on the iMac. No. I think I said on the podcast I'm not going to, but no, I haven't. Based on, bugs I've had with the Mac Mini, I don't think I want to put that on my work computer. I'm too worried about the issues I could potentially have with not being able to export videos on the iMac Pro, and that would really slow down my work, so I'm not going to chance it. A handful of game devs bringing games to the Mac is still a sizable chunk of players. That's a drastic change by definition. I don't think it is. We don't have specific numbers here. I mean, it's very hard to get actual numbers based on this, but I don't think it's a large... I genuinely don't think it's a large number of people. I think... I mean, like, more than one, yes. I mean, more than one people will appreciate that, but I wouldn't call it a drastic change. And I'm mainly saying this from experience. It's not that I'm rooting for the Mac to not be a gaming machine. It's not that I don't want the Mac to be on par with gaming PCs. It's not that I don't want AAA games to support Mac OS. I just don't think that what Apple's tools have been presented for are going to change the minds of the major AAA game devs. I don't think that's going to move their support library. A handful of game devs bringing to the Mac, I don't see how that's drastic. Because it literally means a small number of games. More than likely not the major ones. Let me check real quick. I want to look at the App Store right now and see what the most popular games on the list are. Okay, you got like, Pokemon Go. That wouldn't work on the Mac. Sneaky Sasquatch, which is Apple Arcade game. Man, what happened to the top charts? New games we love. King of Thieves. Yeah, I mean, he's fishing wild catch. There used to be like a section that was like most popular games this week. This is just what to play this week. New games we love. Games you might like. Coming soon. Top free games. Here it is. Subway Surfers. Office Life 3D. Cube Surfer. Roblox. Already on the Mac. Stealth Master. Riddle Master, Bullet Rush, Doodle Run, Magic Tiles 3. Are these the games that you want to bring to Mac that are going to change everything? Let's look at the top paid apps. Minecraft, already on the Mac, so no change there. Heads Up, wouldn't work on a Mac. Monopoly, probably already on the Mac. Plague Inc., True Skate, Balloons, Tower Defense 6. GTA San Andreas. I'd be surprised if that made its way onto the Mac. Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't see these being major changes to the gaming industry on the Mac because most people buying Macs are using them for work, for art, for editing, and that's just kind of what the Mac is more built around, is productivity. Whereas there's a lot more kids in the iPad and iOS sector, getting games like this. A few of these being ported I don't see as being a drastic change. Insert random game Drew listed is coming to Mac. Yeah. None of these seem huge to me. And again, it's just a totally different market. It's not going to give gaming PCs a run for their money. Sports gaming. Yeah, I don't like. You're not going to see Macs being used for esports anytime soon. That's my prediction. I don't think that's going to explode because the market is already very much in depth and oversaturated with the Windows community anyway when it comes to esports and that kind of thing. It's mostly kids playing them. Pokemon Go with the Mac, just use your webcam. That would be wonderful. Because with only mobile games, they're the fifth biggest gaming company. I think they're trying to make it easier for game devs to optimize for the Mac, but I don't expect it to change with Apple Silicon. If EA didn't want to port FIFA to the Switch fully featured, they aren't doing it for Mac. Probably. They sound like the kind of company that would be kind of finicky about that. Let's see. Yeah, Plague Inc. That's going to change everything. I don't know if reverse charging is going to happen. Basically same notch. Yeah, people keep acting like if the iPhone looks the same on the front, then nothing has changed, right? Do you think Apple would really an anti-microphobic case for iPhone 12 series and market it as the same fist phone? No, I doubt it. Also, most of the games, even modern ones, are 32-bit. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. When Apple forced everything to 64-bit in Catalina, there were all of these old games on Steam that suddenly didn't work anymore on the Mac. And Apple didn't really seem to care about that because they're like, they got to update for 64-bit. Which has been around for a long time, and yet all these game devs that used to already support Mac, they supported Mac for years, were just like, it's not worth it. There's not that much user interaction with our games on Mac anyway, so why would we update for 64-bit? These are companies that have already made games for Macs, and they're not even seeing it worth it. They've already spent the money on the Mac computer to optimize the game or whatever. So why is it that list literally proves my point. Apple does not care about the AAA titles. It's all about the mobile universal games that they care about, Minecrafts and Crossy Roads of the world. Yeah, Crossy Roads. Exactly. Had an idea of something that Apple should put into their watch. A body thermometer because of what's happening. That might be a good idea. Well, I know there is a thermometer of some kind in the watch because it knows when it overheats, but I don't know if it detects the body. That could be interesting. I want more macOS games. There aren't enough low-cost games. Really? Yeah, because the low-cost games usually mean low-quality games, particularly on desktop. It's a market issue. And what Apple does can't affect the market, you know? It's kind of like saying Apple can make, you know, iTunes ping show up in your face all the time as much as they want, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a successful social network. Game companies are businesses at the end of the day. If it's a waste of money, they aren't going to do it. I agree. And I don't think that making a Metal app for Windows suddenly makes it super cheap and easy to port their games over, especially if the market is super tiny. I'll try to get a Fold 2. I don't really think I'll get a Note 20 Ultra. It just seems like the S20 Ultra with an S Pen. But yeah, last time I ordered a Galaxy Fold, it never showed up. So Samsung canceled my order. So we'll see if they actually ship the Fold 2. But yeah, I'd like to try it. Are we ignoring the fact that a large majority of people playing iOS games probably don't have a Mac anyway? That's a great point. If we look at Apple's numbers, you know, most people are buying iPhones and iPads. Less and less people are buying Macs these days. It's by default a small user base and an even smaller portion of that market that plays games. Let's see. Also, most of the games even modern. Yeah, we talked about that. You think the new Apple Silicon that MacBooks will get less expensive in the next couple of years? I don't expect them to be less expensive than they are now. I just don't think you'll have to buy higher configurations to get good performance. So you'll be able to buy the base models and still be fine with CPU and GPU speeds. Let's see. Have you noticed in the Apple TV Plus series defending Jacob, the father, and Jaybird using iPhones with smaller notches? Don't believe those. The iPhones they use in commercials and Apple shows typically have simulated screens, and people on them they would not put early iPhones in Apple shows because these shows were filmed like some of them like a year ago, so they wouldn't have prototypes of the iPhone 12 in there. It's just simulated imagery, and the editors not really knowing what they're doing. Matthew had a big rant about it here. He said, Apple will never target professional gamers. They are about the casual gamers, and they have since the iPod Touch days. Remember when they introduced Apple TV 4 and advertised stuff like Crossy Road? That's because that's the market that Apple care about. Now in the Apple TV as a gaming machine, it was a disaster, but my point stands that Apple cares more about the Crossy Roads and Angry Birds players more than the Last of Us and Halo players. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think that's a good point. Okay. Current watch face, it's just the time-lapse one in New York, I think. It's a chicken and the egg problem. What comes first, the players or the gamers? Or the games, yeah. That really is the issue. I mean, if Apple really wanted to go after this, they would probably have to start partnering with some type of... Because, in my opinion, when it comes to what makes a successful gaming device, it really has little to do with the hardware, honestly. Because, I mean, do we even need to describe the graphical performance differences of a Windows PC that most people will buy for games compared to a Nintendo Switch? I mean, the Switch is weaker than, like, some iPads. But it's a huge, amazing success that a ton of people have bought. You know why? Because the games on it are good. And people enjoy the games on the Switch. It's not that the Switch has amazing GPU performance and amazing frame rates. It's fine. It's good enough for the games it runs. But that's not what makes a successful product. And people thinking that Apple's internal hardware is going to change the gaming situation... I don't think anyone who thinks that doesn't understand the gaming market. It has everything to do with what games are available and barely anything to do with the actual hardware accompanied by it. You know, people buy the Xbox, not everyone. I'm just saying most people or a large majority of people will buy the Xbox because it can play Halo, and people love Halo. Or people will buy the PlayStation because they want to play The Last of Us. And people will buy the Switch because they want to play Breath of the Wild. Those are what move inventory. And if Apple doesn't have any kind of exclusive game that's only available on this platform and you can only get it there, it's not going to be a gaming rig. All companies can make strong consoles, but there's a reason there are only 3 console manufacturers. Yep. And it's because of the game exclusives they got on them. When Windows moves to ARM, we could see some AAA games come to Mac. No. Oh my God. That's not how it works. It's not that easy. Just because Windows is running on ARM doesn't mean you can just instantly port some games over to the Mac, because it also runs on ARM. You know, you can put the same Intel processors we have in our Macs now in a Windows PC, but you still got to adapt and optimize your games for that platform. Just because they have the same internal processor, it's a completely different operating system. People need to stop acting like these things are just easy. Oh yeah, just drag it over there and then it's ported. There's no reason to. There's no advantage to. It's such a small dev base. There's so little gamers there. Why would they bother going through all that work? Doesn't matter if it's easy. It's been easy, in my opinion. I don't play on console, no. In fact, in the past month or so, I haven't played any games. If I am playing a game, you'll see it on Talos of Gaming. And if Talos of Gaming isn't active for a long time, it's because I haven't played any games. You have to also consider the Apple GPU. That won't be on Windows. True. Yeah, whatever hardware Apple is using is completely different silicon and completely different GPUs than what's on Windows. So no, it's not. I think people are oversimplifying how easy it is, and they're being a little too it feels very backwards, right? Because it feels like me, the Apple sheep, should be the one that's like, gaming is about to change. Apple's making it real easy for game devs to port stuff over. I don't think it's me doubting Apple. It's me doubting that game devs will see it as worth it. I don't see game devs as being like, oh, cool, those tools are really helpful for us, because if they even put $10,000 towards optimizing their game for a Mac, which, by the way, that wouldn't happen. It would be chump change. Do you know how much uptick in sales or revenue they would see from the Mac OS community? Be next to nothing. It'd probably be a couple grand. And it would cost way more than that for them to train some of their software engineers to readapt things and port things over. Because when you optimize for a different platform, it's going to have different bugs. It's going to have different optimization issues. And a feature you want to roll out to Windows may be way more complicated for a feature to roll out to Mac. We already know how picky Apple is with revenue on the Mac App Store and the iOS App Store and things like that. That game devs aren't really used to working with their AAA titles over on PC and consoles. They don't see that as worth it. So that's why I don't expect much to change. I really hope this rumor about Apple separating Apple Arcade from the App Store into its own app is a great thing, as long as the Arcade app is removable. On that note, there's an option in the Music section of the Settings app to hide Apple Music, and they need to add that option to hide Apple TV Plus and News Plus. I agree they should, but I also understand why they haven't. It's because Apple's trying to orient themselves as a services company, and from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like it's going that well. I think that Apple Music is probably doing well. I think the Apple Card is probably doing pretty well. iCloud storage maybe is doing well. Apple Care, that kind of thing, they probably do pretty well on that. But their new ones like TV Plus, News Plus, and Arcade are probably not performing as well as they'd like, because they kind of went into the market with some subscriptions that people don't really see it as being worth it. In the long run, I didn't see Apple Arcade as being worth it, because it's just, there's a few nice games on there for mobile, but not something I'd be willing to spend $5 a month on. Just a recurring expense like that. I don't know. Some people might see it as worth it, but I don't. Apple News Plus feels like a complete ripoff to me, and there's already major news agencies pulling their articles off of News Plus, saying, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. And I think, what was the other one? TV Plus is still hard to tell. I mean, they're winning a lot of award shows, but there's so many people that are getting TV Plus for free for the first year that it's kind of hard for Apple to tell. I definitely won't keep paying for it. There's not enough content on there for me to think a $5 subscription is worth it. It's still a fairly barren catalog, and I think there's some shows on there that look more interesting than others, but none of it worth $5 a month in my opinion. There's a reason the Switch compared to the PlayStation and Xbox doesn't have that many third-party games. It isn't because it isn't only that it isn't strong enough. Oh my god. It's because the Switch doesn't run x86 like the PlayStation, PC, and Xbox. Okay. The Switch has plenty of third-party games because it's popular. Yeah. If a bunch of people are buying the hardware for gaming, that's how you get a bunch of game devs to port their games over. Just throwing this out there as my grain of salt. Apple just isn't a gaming-focused company. They just aren't and probably never will be. It's a service-oriented luxury brand that has a main product line, nice stream, really loving the content on YouTube too. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your insight. I think there's aspects of Apple that can compare to a luxury brand, but I think they're far too mainstream to be considered a luxury brand, considering, you know, luxury brands typically aren't like... A luxury clothing line isn't like 60% of clothes in the country, which is why I'm like, they have some similarities with a luxury brand, but I wouldn't consider them luxury because of how popular they are. They're a bit more accessible than most luxury brands. They have some high-end expensive items, but as a whole, they still do things like the budget iPad, the $200 Apple Watch, the iPhone SE, which are incredibly competitively priced compared to their competitors. And that way, it's not super luxury-based, but... They do make a lot out of mobile games. I admit that. I don't think they're a gaming-focused company, but there's a huge revenue sector in the iOS App Store, and I think they're very prominent there. They're very strong there because they have so much dominance in the mobile field, especially the more rich mobile field. But I don't see them turning the Mac into something that it's not. What Apple needs to do is partner with a company like Hulu and offer TV Plus as an add-on to a person's Hulu subscription. Maybe. That might be smart. I think Apple is always going to be seen as a hardware company. It's been seen as one for decades, so it's going to be hard to shift that view. Also, the main benefit to Apple is that they can optimize the experience with services. There really is no optimization. Yeah, I think they'll be known as a little bit of both. I mean, services and stuff is picking up. It's increasing for them, but yeah, I think hardware will definitely be their primary income for a long time. Oh yeah, Disney owns Hulu, so that would be kind of hard to do. Let's see. The world would have been different if Microsoft never bought Bungie and had Halo. Since Bungie used to make games only for the Mac, they revealed the first Halo at Macworld, so guaranteed Macs would have been better for games if Apple was still working with Bungie. Possibly. I know that whole backstory with Halo originally being on the Mac, but kind of Microsoft took it from them. But I think there's more factors to it than just that. It would have been interesting to see what happened if they just kept Halo running on the Mac. But I also know Steve Jobs did not really care about gaming. He was not really that passionate about the Macs being in the gaming sector. And he wasn't really too interested in what Microsoft was doing with PC and Xbox and that kind of stuff. So maybe, but I don't think that was all of it. I don't think it would have been all gaming rigs if Bungie would have stuck with Apple. If anything, it's possible that, you know, there's a lot of games that Apple showcased and demonstrated with their own hardware, and those games ended up going nowhere or dying off because Apple didn't see it as worth it. For instance, Infinity Blade used to be showcased with all the iPhone unveilings. Whenever there was a new iPhone, they were like, here's the new Infinity Blade, and that game series just ended. And I think they removed their app from the App Store now, so you can't even get it anymore. Let's see. What product are you most excited for in the next upcoming Apple event? I'm not convinced there's 2 Apple events. I don't believe that rumor. No one with any type of credibility has claimed that's going to happen. There's like literally all these random Twitter accounts that are 3 days old that are like, here's what's going to happen, and everyone's like, whoa, it's real. Everyone's looking for the next Coin X. And it's just, Coin X's are not that common, guys. And you can't believe the Coin X's until they're proven right. You know? That's the problem. There's all these new Twitter accounts that are making these outlandish claims, but they've never gotten anything right in the past. So I don't know why we need to believe in them. Do you think Steve Jobs would have ever added 120 hertz to an iPhone? I don't think he cared. Uh, I doubt that was something he was interested in his time. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. What am I most excited for in the next Apple event? I'm pretty excited for the new iPhones. Just reading about them and hearing about them so much, I'm excited for the wait to be over and for us to just know what they look like and know the specs and just kind of run with that. I'm looking forward to that wait being over. It's exciting to think that at the end of this week, we'll be able to say it's iPhone event next month. We just got August, and then boom, iPhone time, baby. Microsoft has a problem with buying companies and absolutely ruining them. Skype is the biggest example I can think of from 2003 to 2011. Skype was the biggest thing, then Microsoft bought them and no idea what to do with them and let them die while FaceTime and Zoom took over. Really, I know a lot of people that still use Skype, honestly, but I don't know of that many stories of Microsoft ruining acquisitions, but I haven't looked too deep into it. I'm excited for the redesigned iMac, but the more I read about that, it sounds like it's going to be a next year type thing, which sounds more believable in my opinion. It also sounds totally believable that they're going to release an Intel-based old style iMac, an iMac that looks the same as this one. Probably next month or later or something like that. Or this month, I don't know when it's coming. Sometime this year. And then maybe in 2021, they'll do the updated iMac design. I'm convinced there is an updated iMac design coming, but I think they're going to wait until they can do Apple Silicon on the iMac before they launch it. That's my guess. iPhone event is confirmed September. It's not confirmed, but it's highly likely. I mean, it's more than likely going to be online because Apple did that with Quadruple UDC. And Quadruple UDC was a few weeks later than usual, but most of the time September events are the second Tuesday of that month. So if it's a couple weeks behind, it would still most likely be September. I don't expect the iPhones to launch in September. More than likely, Apple has showcased in the past that they're willing to have a September event and then ship the iPhones in November if they want to. So they're okay unveiling something and then waiting a couple months before they start shipping it. I definitely expect the iPhones to be late, somewhere in October or November even, if things are really pushed back. But I would be very, very surprised if we didn't get an Apple event in September. Because that kind of throws off their whole marketing thing of like unveiling, dominate the press with the new announcements, and then come holiday season, you also got Black Friday. That's where a lot of people are buying new phones. So they like the timing of their iPhone announcements. I don't think they want to change that. Do you believe they'll show off the iPhone, Silicon Mac, and the new iPad Air in one event? Probably, yeah. If there's only going to be 2 Apple events this year, and they didn't do any hardware at the last one, then yeah, it sounds like it would be a very hardware-packed Apple event next. Not to mention Series 6. So you're getting new Apple Watch, new iPhone, new Mac. Apple already confirmed there's a Silicon Mac. That's not even a leak. That's a confirmation. Apple said that the first silicon-based Mac would come out before the end of this year. So we know that for sure. iPad Air 4 is more of a rumor, but it feels likely given the last iPad Air was over a year ago, and there's rumors brewing of a 10.8, 11-inch iPad. New form factor. I doubt they would bring a new form factor to the budget iPad. There's not real much sense in that. But Apple rebranding and dumbing down an old iPad Pro for a cheaper iPad Air, they've done that before. Makes perfect sense. So it's not like completely confirmed that all that stuff is happening. It just seems highly likely. Is there a chance AirTags will be a letdown for us nerds considering we've known about them for so long? I don't know what could be a letdown about them because there's not that much hype for them. What would be that exciting? Yeah, it's not really a leak to claim that the iPhone event would be September 8th because that's the way Apple has unveiled iPhones for like 5 to 6 years now. It's been every September on the second Tuesday. They've done that. Or if it's September 11th, they'll push it to a Wednesday or something. But it's been fairly easy to predict iPhone events for the past few years. Only reason it might not be September 8th is because the pandemic may have delayed things a little bit, so they pushed it back slightly. Other than that, would an ARM MacBook have a headphone jack? It could. It probably will. I don't know. You know, Apple made ARM iPads and iPhones with headphone jacks for years, so I don't know why this is different. I promised to buy my mom an AirTag for Mother's Day. Please come soon. Yeah, I don't know why they haven't released them yet. What are opinions about Airpods Studio? Well, it's not out, so it's hard to predict. I think, yeah, they're definitely going up against a very saturated market. So I don't know how they're going to compete. I imagine diehard fans of the Sonys and the Bose over-ear headphones are probably going to say AirPods aren't as good. They don't give me as much control or that kind of thing. But sound quality wise, I think AirPods Studio will probably sound pretty nice. That is, if they exist. These days, it's hard to tell if they really exist anymore. Can we store pictures on 64 gig storage instead of my iCloud? My iCloud is getting full. What? I don't know how to help you there. Get some more iCloud storage or something. I don't know. They kind of ruined Bungie by just buying out Halo. I mean, Destiny is decent, but like they were known for Halo. Yeah, that's true. Will you review the Surface Duo? Yeah, I think that could be fun. I don't really know what they're going to charge for it, but yeah, that's supposed to come out later this year, isn't it? They said holiday 2020. I remember that announcement. I was like, man, that's so far away from now, and now I'm like, oh man, that's like coming up here. Holiday 2020 is like 4 or 5 months away. This has absolutely no evidence, but a random Twitter leaker has said the 12 and 12 Max will launch on September 25th, with the 12 Pro Max on November 6th. Again, it could be real, it could be fake. It's really hard to tell at this point, but it's not from a credible leaker, so I wouldn't count on it at this point. We'll see. Thankfully, we won't have to wait much longer, but I'm most likely expecting September event of some kind that'll all be online and filmed, just like the Dub one was. Quadruple UDC. Sorry, that's my new word for it. I gotta stick with that. We gotta keep going with that. Apple rumors leaks with his 8 leaks a day. That's the funny thing about these new Twitter accounts. Don't they tweet things like 4 times a day? Just imagining someone with that many sources. You have so many CoinX parodies, basically. All these people trying to be the next CoinX. They just like the fame. You know, I guess there's worse ways to get fame. You know, there's TikTokers that do cringy things or prank people and harm them to get fame. These leakers are just trying to get their account promoted in some news article. They want 9 to 5 Mac to report on them, and they want Mac rumors to report on them. They get some likes, they get some follows, and then it ends up being false, and they just leave or delete the account or give up on it. But it's really become quite a pandemic, hasn't it? With so many fake tweets and fake leakers. Honestly, what has happened with leaking in 2020? It's really fallen apart, hasn't it? Some of them already contradicting what he said before. Yeah, I saw that too. I think it was that Apple Rumors Twitter account that was like, it was tweeting like, or was it Love to Dream that said something like, I dream products are ready to ship this week. And then all the other fake Twitter accounts are like, yeah. Stuff is going to ship this Monday. New products coming out. We're getting a website refresh. You know, and all these new things. And then like 2 days later, they're like, oh, it's been canceled. It's not happening this week. It's all useless. It's all useless. Personally, Sam, I don't know if you're watching this, but if I could make any suggestion or request on Apple Tracker, which I think is great. I love Apple Tracker. I think it's an awesome website, and it's an amazing and awesome idea that we need to hold leakers accountable to what they get right and what they get wrong. But let me throw something out there. The purpose of a credibility rating, like a percentage, this is how accurate this leaker is. The point of that rating is so that when someone tweets something, when someone reports a leak, we will know how likely that leak is to happen. What's the percentage of this following through? If that leaker changes their mind later, by definition, that means their previous leak did not happen. It was incorrect. So if their follow-up leak that contradicts themselves before is right, then sure, count that for them. All right, they got it right. But if what they said earlier didn't happen, I think that should count against them. I think that should damage credibility. Because, in my opinion, it'd be way too easy, as we can already see it's happening in the leak community, it'd be way too easy for a bunch of leakers and a bunch of people tweeting out stuff to just be like, oh, this is all going to come out, this is going to come out, this is how much it's going to cost, this is when it's launching, this is when it's... And then the day before an event be like, okay, never mind. That should hurt reputation, because the point of the credibility meter is, will this happen? I don't care if it's a track record of them saying something and then it doesn't happen, or if it's a track record of them saying something and then changing their mind later. That still means they were wrong before, because what they tweeted was not reality. What they tweeted did not end up happening. So if you say a bunch of products are ready to ship, or if you say all this hardware is going to be at this event and then it isn't, I say lower the score for that person. Because if they keep doing this, then that means the leaks we're hearing today, they could change their mind on down the road. That's just my opinion. It's not my site, so I don't really get to control how the site works. But as someone who follows a lot of leakers and a lot of reports and that kind of thing, I don't think that if you change your mind on a leak, you should just get a free pass. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's how accuracy percentages should work. So in my opinion, if they change their mind, lower the score. Because that means something, you know. That means if someone tweets that an Apple product is going to cost this much, or it's going to come out at this time, and then down the road it's not that, so they change their tweet and say, actually, new update, that's not what's happening. If a leaker is tweeting something and Apple changes their mind on it down the road, then I don't want to hear about it, because it's unconfirmed, it's not official. So, don't be giving us information like it's going to happen if it hasn't been decided. Because I think that's the counter argument a lot of people are giving. Whenever I express this, people are like, yeah, but plans internally change and Apple changes their mind on things. It's like, then don't report it. That means it's not official. Don't bring that up, because if the leaker has a track record of reporting things that weren't decided or weren't official, then they're not correct. The leak wasn't right. That's why I think CoinX doesn't tweet that often, because it's very rare that Apple has actually decided on something. We shouldn't be getting leaks, and we shouldn't be getting tweets of things that aren't confirmed, or things that Apple might change their mind on later, because those are still going to end up being wrong. So lower the score. I'm still highly convinced that there will be 2 events every year that Apple has both news on the mobile and desktop side of things. They split it up, I guess, September for new iPhones, watches, and AirTags, and October for new MacBook and MacBook Pro, iPad and iPad Air, and Airpods Studio. Yeah, I don't know. I think this year is a little differently. I think everything this year is a bit different. I mean, if we base on how things Apple has done in the past, then we wouldn't have gotten the Magic Keyboard case as a website refresh. That was something they did just via a site upgrade. Like, hey, by the way, here's the new version of iPadOS, and here's cursor support and everything like that. And normally we would expect that kind of thing to be saved for an event. Apple didn't change their minds. Craig has said the event was recorded weeks before. Yeah, I don't know what that was in correlation to, but I'm sure internally Apple changes their minds on things, but that's why we shouldn't. The problem is so many fans and so many users out there will read a leak or read a tweet and say it's confirmed. And I've seen that happen too many times now. A leaker claims something and everyone's like, oh, this is confirmed to happen. It's not confirmed. So if everyone's going to act like someone with a decent track record is confirming things, but then they change their mind down the road, it's not confirmed. So we shouldn't treat it like that. You're right, but it's simple, really. You download Twitter, build up and push some news here and there, slap those Twitter ads on there, which I think you can do fairly easily, or just do it for the follows, I guess. Only ones I have on Twitter is CoinX, 9 to 5, and Mac Rumors. I think everybody else is resolved via retweets. Oh, wow. There you go. Let's see. Would you still recommend an Intel MacBook Pro for a college student instead of waiting for an ARM MacBook? I don't know where I said that. I've always said if you can wait for a new MacBook, wait. You know, but it's also not the end of the world if you can't wait, if you need it for school, if you need it for college. Right now, you need it now, and your old Mac or your old computer just isn't working for you. It won't be the end of the world to buy an Intel Mac now. I still think you're going to get years and years of software support. But if you're capable of waiting for the ARM Mac, please do, because it'll be worth it, I think. Apple didn't change their minds on hardware at DubDub. They knew there wouldn't be any hardware because DubDub had already been recorded for weeks. Gotcha. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, where is the on-leaks render when we need it? I want that on-leaks render. We don't know. No one knows if 120 hertz is happening on the iPhone. Don't believe anyone who says they know. That's the issue with the leak community. It's so messy. Everyone acts like they know things and they really don't. I think that's the that's the running theme we've had with leakers this year. And I think we're going to get reminded of that with the iPhone 12 when it comes out. There's probably still going to be a bunch of things we got wrong and a bunch of things we didn't know about. It seems to happen every year. Literally, no one got the Series 5 right. I just want to throw that out there. No one was suggesting always-on display was happening with the Series 5. Apple kept that secret through and through. Also, everyone kept saying reverse wireless charging was happening for months before the phone came out. And then it came out and it didn't. And like the day before the event, Quo was like, actually they scrapped that, never mind. I think that should count against them. I don't think that, you know, it actually neutralizes out if you think about it. If the leak is iPhone will have bilateral wireless charging, incorrect. Follow-up leak, actually they scrapped it, correct leak, nothing changes. That shouldn't improve or deprove your score, in my mind. That's what we like about you, Drew. You know nothing, yet everything. That should be my Twitter bio. I've seen a lot of people comment that, actually, on videos. You seem like a guy that knows everything and nothing at the same time. I think that's accurate. I think I agree with that. Because on one aspect, you could ask me questions about certain subjects and I could go off for hours. And on other subjects, I'm an idiot. I know nothing. When is the new iPad Pro coming out? Next year. Probably March or June of next year. Are you getting the Pixel 4a whenever it comes out? I don't know. Is it that interesting? Maybe. Excuse me. Maybe if I'm running out of things to talk about. Right now I have a fairly big list of subjects I want to dive into with future videos, so I'm not really in desperate need of more reviews or unboxings. But I might. We'll see. Thank you for the 10 bits, Merzimo. I don't trust these iPhone price leaks because we never get price leaks this early. Yeah, that's true. We never get them right either. But now I know several leakers that have reported pretty much every price point possible. So someone's got to be right, but I don't even know if I believe it was because they had the correct sources. It's partially just guessing at this point. I don't think Apple decided on prices all those months ago. You can't wait till June? Okay, then get one now. A new one came out like a couple months ago. It's not that big a deal. Are you getting the Tesla Semi to review? I don't know how I could. Mike, I'm counting on you. You got to get it for me. Special shout out to anyone out there who can get a Tesla Semi and let me test drive it. Please. Please. That would be the time of my life. I desperately want to drive a Tesla Semi before I die. I'm getting older, guys. I need to do this. It's on my bucket list. Oh my god. Thank you for the bits and the Twitch Primes all. I got to head out now. But thank you all for tuning in. And I will chat with you all later. Bye-bye.